all. This is Marcie. I'm one of the team lead dietitians here at TLB Nutrition Therapy. And today I'm going to be talking about some coping strategies and breathwork techniques to support you in doing food exposures. This will be video one of two. So in this video, I'm going to be providing some education on the nervous system, how our body might be reacting when we're feeling anxious ahead of a food exposure, and review some coping and breathing strategies that can help support the body before and after a food exposure. In the second video, this will be more of a guide that you can use during a food exposure. So the idea would be that as you're doing your food exposure, you're playing the video so you have the guided support before and after the food exposure. So what I want to start on today in this video is a little bit of education about our nervous system. And as you can imagine for yourself in your experience, when we are stressed or anxious about anything, our body reacts. So I want you to think about that for yourself for a second. If you're feeling stressed or anxious, let's say for a project that's due at school, or you're going to have to speak, at work, how does your body react? I know for me, if I am feeling stressed or anxious, my chest tends to feel tight, my throat might constrict a little bit. Maybe it feels a little harder to swallow, and I get kind of tunnel vision. And so all of these physiological body reactions are part of the fight or flight response that our body enters when we're under a threat. And so this response was developed years and years ago as a way to keep us human beings alive, right? So we think about our ancestors maybe being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Yeah, we would want the muscles to constrict and the heart to beat faster, so that we can run away and escape that threat. We're not dealing with that in our modern times, but our bodies still have that fight or flight response, in response to stressors. And if you're about to do a food exposure, it's likely that you're feeling stressed or anxious about that. A little bit more about the fight or flight symptoms. So like I mentioned, we can have that increased heart rate. Maybe the chest or throat feels tight. So that's especially hard for a food exposure, right? If we're going to be swallowing, we don't want that constriction. That's going to make it feel uncomfortable, maybe. If we're in fight or flight, our digestion actually slows down. So if we're being chased by that saber-toothed tiger, our body is actually directing our energy sources to our muscles, to our heart and our lungs to get us out of that situation. And eating and digestion is not seen as important as we're running away. So our digestion slows down. Maybe we have butterflies in our stomachs, right? And we might have a loss of appetite. So both of these things can make food exposures more challenging too. And then the other one I wanted to mention is that if we're in fight or flight, our saliva production in our mouth decreases since digestion is slowing down. So again, this makes a food exposure or eating hard. We need that saliva to help chew and swallow. And so if our mouth is dry, that's going to make eating harder. So I wanted to provide some coping strategies and breath work that can help soothe our nervous system and move us out of fight or flight response into rest and digest. So I'm going to start with breath work. Before I do that, I'm going to take a sip of water because my mouth is a little dry right now. And so I'm sure you've heard someone say, oh, just take a deep breath. If you're feeling stressed, if you're emotional, take a deep breath. And that can feel nice, but I like to talk about the science that's behind the deep breathing. So we have this really big nerve that goes from our brain to our digestive tract called the vagus nerve. And, if you've heard of that gut-brain connection or trust your gut, it's that nerve that's sending that communication. So, deep breathing, deep belly breathing, which we're going to go over in a second, this soothes that vagus nerve and it tells our body that we're safe and we're okay. And so you're maybe like, yeah, I've heard that a million times to breathe deeply, but there is some science behind why that's supportive for our bodies. And so if we're doing deep belly breathing, this is also called diaphragmatic breathing. Our diaphragm sits below our ribs. We want to fully expand our bellies on an inhale and let it rise through the chest up and then exhale. So at baseline, most of us, we breathe pretty shallowly if we're not thinking about it, right? We're always breathing, but we're breathing up here. So we do need to be more intentional about bringing that breath deeper into the belly. So if it feels comfortable, I would invite you to put one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. If that does not feel comfortable, that's okay. You can rest your hands on your legs or the armchair, whatever feels good. So when we take that breath in, we want to feel the hand on our belly expand, push out. In through the nose, you could maybe see my chest and hand rise. And then as we exhale, we're going to feel our chest fall first, followed by our belly. And so you could do this one count in, one count out. What I will cue in the next video will probably be 2 to 4 counts of breath. So breathing in for 4 counts and out for 4. Could breathe out through the nose or the mouth, whatever is most comfortable. We don't necessarily want to hold the breath at the top. I would say for these videos, and the purpose of this video, we want to keep a smooth breath. Only breathe in as long as it feels comfortable. So if, the count I provide in the next video feels like it's uncomfortable or too long or like you're holding your breath, don't take my count. You can always shorten it or lengthen it depending on what feels good for your body. So again, that's going to be expanding the belly with a breath in through the nose. And if it feels okay, an exhale through the nose. And if we can make our exhales a little bit longer than our inhales, our nervous system really likes that. Okay, so we'll come back to the breathing in the next video. Another coping strategy I like to offer, and I do this myself if I'm feeling anxious or dysregulated, is kind of a 5 senses countdown. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, and maybe some of you have heard of it. But basically, we're going to start grounding into our space more. And so we're going to start with 5 things we can see. So we'll look around the room, spot 5 things we can see with our eyes. Then we're going to find 4 things we can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And so I will give an example of this in the next guided video, just to provide some examples. But this can be one if you're feeling a little all over the place to kind of come back to the space and feel a little more grounded. Something else I'll cue in the next video is some movement, some intense movement and stretching options. When I say intense movement, it's not a workout. We're not even going to get up out of our seat. But what I mean from that is muscle contraction and releasing, right? So we can contract our shoulders, feel it shake and release. Another one you can do is press both your palms together and press really hard. So if you're doing that with me, you're probably feeling your hands and arms shake. Shaking is a way that we can help the body move through moments of stress. So if we're contracting and releasing or shaking, this can feel good to our nervous system. And then stretching, if you've been sitting all day, right, we can kind of move around and loosen up a little bit. So I will cue that in the next video as well. And then I encourage you to think about some other supportive items you might want nearby during your exposure. Do you need some water or another beverage? Do you need a safe food nearby? Any fidgets you want, any stress balls or other fidgets that feel good? Do you want a family member or friend with you? Do you want to be by yourself? Do you need music, noise canceling headphones? Does the low lighting feel better, right? So I want you to kind of think about your environment as well as what's going to make this feel as supportive as possible. And with that, I'm going to end this video. That was kind of the education and prep work ahead of the exposure guidance. And I will see you over there.